Today we're going to tell you guys some things you probably didn't know about America's most popular sports. Drew here is going to start with telling us about America's favorite pastime, baseball.
Well, actually, baseball being America's favorite pastime is not completely true. Seeing as the game started in Great Britain, there's a game called Rounders, and that's what most people consider the father of modern baseball. Another game, cricket, also originated from the same game of Rounders, so I guess in a weird way you could call baseball and cricket long-lost brothers. To be honest, I'm pretty glad baseball found its way into America and not cricket. But the first game of baseball, and baseball is spelled B-A-S-S and not S-E, was in the British county of Surrey, and the Prince of Wales is actually playing the game. The game had a really graceful entrance into America, with the first sign of it being in a law that actually prohibited it from being played in the state of Massachusetts. But this great game would not be deterred, with the first ever matchup being on June 19, 1846 in Hoboken, New Jersey. The game was between the New York Nine and the Knickerbockers, and the New York Nine ended up edging out the Knickerbockers 23-1. In this game, there was only one out per side, and you could catch it on one hop and it would be an automatic out. The only advantage to the offense was that the underhand pitching was allowed. And this game changed drastically when a guy named Alexander Cartwright, who played on the Knickerbockers, made some serious rule changes. These changes occurred before that game, and it's the reason why many consider that to be the first real baseball game. Alexander Cartwright is the father of modern baseball due to these rule changes. In the mid-1850s, New York was obsessed with this game of baseball, and they keyed the term national pastime. In 1858, the first game where tickets were sold was in Queens, New York. Just 5 years after that, one-hop outs were abolished, and 4 years after that, in 1867, African Americans were allowed to play. The National Association of Professional Baseball Players was created in 1871 and failed miserably, dying out in 1875. The National League was created in 1876 and is the oldest surviving major league for any sport. The last major change occurred in 1884, where overhand pitching was abolished, and anyone who didn't like that created softball.
Well, that was interesting, but I'm going to tell you about a sport called football. The first game was played between Rutgers and Princeton on November 6, 1869. It was much different than today's game of football in that it was played with 25 players and you were not allowed to carry the ball. Soon it evolved into a 400-yard field of 20 players, but rules could still be set by the home team. In 1879, a player by the name of Walter Camp from Yale, who is known as the father of American football, decided to make a few major rule changes, including lowering the number of players on a team to 11, introducing 3 5-yard downs, and introducing the snap. In 1905, 62 college teams came together to form the NCAA, an association that regulated all rules as a response to the 19 deaths caused by the previous rules in 1905. These new rules introduced the forward pass and 4 downs to get 10 yards instead of 3 to get 5, like there was in previous years. The NFL is professionally challenged only by one major organization called the AFL in the 60s, but merged to create the Super Bowl in 1966. This single championship game eluded college football until the 1990s because of the bowl system where each conference had a bowl tie-in. This kept the number 1 and 2 teams from playing each other most of the time, which kept them from having a true championship. College football has had many different championship series in the past, including the controversial BCS, but they're now in their first 4-game playoff system.
Well, I'm going to talk about a sport a little bit younger than y'all's, but just as prominent in America. Before there was LeBron James, Michael Jordan, or even Wilt Chamberlain, there was James Naismith. Naismith was born in Ontario, Canada in 1861. As a child, Naismith played the classic childhood game of Duck on a Rock. Duck on a Rock is an old game in which a person guards a large stone while other players try to throw smaller stones and knock it over. Naismith found that the best strategy for this was lobbing the ball and hitting it rather than going for a direct throw. Naismith first thought he would use a round, softer ball like soccer to minimize injuries. Also, he wanted the goals to be unguardable to reduce injuries, so he came up with the idea of having the goals above the player's head. Therefore, in order to score, players had to lob the ball like everyone's favorite childhood game of Duck on a Rock. These goals turned out to be peach baskets, and Naismith termed the game basketball. The first game was played in December of 1891 and was quite different from modern basketball. It was a 9v9 game, there was no dribbling, and tackling was not uncommon. Though there were several similarities. There was no running with the ball, and there were jump balls, only they were done after each basket. The game became extremely popular in the area, and Naismith actually declined offers to change the name to Naismith Ball. Naismith soon left Springfield to become Kansas's first basketball coach and ironically, he's the only basketball coach in Kansas history to have a losing record. By the turn of the century, basketball was popular enough to be played intercollegiately, and in 1904 it became an Olympic sport. Naismith died in 1939 and left a legacy of being the creator of the great sport of basketball.
And that's how some of America's greatest sports were founded.